In cold January, as the echoes of New Year's celebrations still lingered in the air, an event occurred in Japan. A nation celebrated for its safety and low crime rates that shook the country to its core. In the quiet residential district of Setagaya, within one of the neat, typically Japanese houses, the Miyazawa family was found, brutally murdered on the night of the 31st of December, 2000. This crime left a deep wound not only in the hearts of loved ones and the public, but also became one of the most mysterious and unsolved cases in the history of Japan, known as the Miyazawa family murder. Picture this house, a typical two-story mansion nestled in the greenery of a small garden, with a canopy over the front door and a neatly trimmed lawn. The dark windows, as if veiled in silence, concealed a warm, cozy world within, filled with the laughter of children and the care of parents. The head of the family, 44-year-old Mikio Miyazawa, was a successful designer. His wife, 41-year-old Yasuko, took care of the home and raised their two children, 8-year-old Miwa and 6-year-old Rei. Neighbors described them as a happy and friendly family, whose evenings were often filled with the aromas of home-cooked meals and joyful exclamations. No one could have imagined the tragedy that awaited them behind closed doors on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, a time of joy, family gatherings, and the anticipation of new beginnings. The time when wishes are made and hearts are filled with hope. The Miyazawa family, like many others in Japan, were preparing for the new year. The house was filled with a festive atmosphere. A decorated Christmas tree sparkled, colorful gifts lay beneath it, and the anticipation of the traditional New Year's dinner hung in the air. But this peaceful idyll was cruelly interrupted. Sometime between late evening on the 30th of December and the early morning of the 31st of December, 2001, a murderer entered the house. Exactly what happened during those fateful hours remains a mystery shrouded in deep darkness. It is known only that the attacker acted with unimaginable cruelty, taking the lives of all the family members in their own home. Mikio was stabbed, Yasuko was strangled, and the young children, Mire and Reinn, were subjected to unbearable suffering. The killer did not simply kill the family, he remained in the house like an ominous phantom wandering through someone else's dwelling. For several hours after the crime, the perpetrator behaved as if he were the owner of the house. He changed into Mikio's clothes, ate ice cream from the refrigerator, and used the computer, leaving digital footprints of his presence. The killer, seemingly wanting to erase every trace, even took a bath, carefully drying his feet with a soft towel before leaving the house. These actions, which seemed both shocking and utterly incomprehensible, only deepened the darkness and mystery surrounding this already enigmatic case. The morning of the 31st of December was freezing. The sun had not yet managed to peek over the horizon, and a deathly silence reigned in the Miyazawa house. The neighbors, worried by the lack of light in the windows and any signs of life, decided to check if everything was all right. They knocked on the door, but received only silence in response. Fearing the worst, they immediately called the police. The first officers arrived on the scene. What they saw inside the house horrified them. Blood, chaos, and the signs of incredibly brutal violence. It was more than even seasoned police officers could bear. A large-scale investigation began, which, to their great sorrow, yielded no results. The police collected a vast number of clues, meticulously combing through every corner of the house, but not a single one led to the arrest of a suspect. Despite all their efforts, the case remained unsolved, and the killer who had committed this monstrous crime still remained free. One of the most striking details of the case was the astonishing abundance of evidence left behind by the killer. His fingerprints, like ominous marks, were found on many objects in the house, including the computer mouse that had slid under his hand, and glasses that held traces of his touch. DNA extracted from a drop of blood found at the crime scene was also securely preserved. The police found his blood-stained shoes and even the clothes he might have worn while committing this terrible act. It seemed like incredible luck for the investigators, but despite all these pieces of evidence, the killer's identity remained undetermined. Footprints that did not belong to any member of the family were found in the house. Furthermore, the killer left behind a knife, a weapon of death, cold and merciless. All these clues should have been the key to solving the case, but for some unclear reason, they didn't lead to success. Why, despite such a quantity of evidence, does the case remain unsolved? The answer lies in several factors. First, the absence of witnesses and any video recordings that could shed light on the criminal's identity became a serious problem. Second, the complexity of analyzing a vast amount of evidence and processing it presented a real puzzle. Third, errors made at the very initial stage of the investigation might have led to the irretrievable loss of valuable traces. And finally, perhaps the cunning and sophistication of the criminal himself contributed to this tragic story. The investigation encountered an incredible number of difficulties. The police had to analyze a simply colossal amount of information, question hundreds of witnesses, and collect thousands of clues. But, to our great sorrow, this proved insufficient. Years passed, and the case remained unsolved. For many years, the police returned to this case repeatedly, bringing in new experts and using the most modern methods of criminal investigation. All possible versions were thoroughly investigated, from revenge to a simple robbery, but none of them were ever confirmed. One of the versions considered by the investigation was personal animosity. Mikio Miyazawa, a brilliant designer whose works delighted many, could very well have made enemies in his professional environment. Perhaps envy, malice, or hidden wickedness pushed someone to a terrible act. However, the police, having carefully studied all the circumstances, could not find convincing evidence to support this version. Another version, which investigators carefully checked, was robbery. The Miyazawa house was filled with valuable items, antiques, works of art, and jewelry of considerable monetary worth. Surprisingly, the killer took nothing, which would suggest a robbery. This made this explanation less likely, though not impossible. A third theory, one that sparked much debate, concerned the killer's mental state. His behavior at the crime scene, the lack of any remorse, and the cruelty and cold-bloodedness of the murders hinted at possible psychological issues. Perhaps the killer suffered from a severe disorder that drove him to commit this monstrous crime. However, even this theory, unfortunately, couldn't be confirmed. Many years have passed since the tragedy, yet the case remains open, a reminder of an unsolved mystery and the pain this story carries. The Miyazawa family never found justice, and the ghost of the killer continues to haunt the residents of Setagaya. As for the criminal's psychological profile, it can only be reconstructed based on the scarce available information. Evidently, he knew the Miyazawa home intimately, its layout and every detail. It was not out of the question that he knew the family, had observed them, meticulously studying their daily routines. The killer's conduct at the crime scene indicated an absence of remorse or regret and an undeniable degree of cold-bloodedness and organization. He seemed confident, perhaps even certain of his impunity. His motives remained a mystery, sealed behind 7 locks. Revenge, envy, greed, or simply madness. What exactly drove this person to commit such a terrible crime would forever remain a secret. The consequences of the Miyazawa family tragedy for the public were profound and multifaceted. The case plunged the nation into shock and fear, forcing many Japanese residents to reconsider their perceptions of security and vulnerability. A traditionally peaceful and safe country suddenly faced a cruel and mysterious crime, the echoes of which resonated in every corner of Japanese culture and society. This case, like a shadow, blanketed the country, causing many people to reevaluate their lives. Fear crept into homes, and people grew more cautious, installing security systems as if erecting walls against an unknown threat. A widespread campaign launched across the media aimed to raise awareness about crime and enhance safety measures. Newspapers blazed with headlines, and television broadcast heartbreaking reports, all attempting to warn, caution, and protect. Moreover, the murder of the Miyazawa family became a symbol of the inability of law enforcement to effectively combat crime, a deep wound on the body of society. This led to sharp criticism of the police, exposing systemic flaws and demanding fundamental reforms in the justice system. The Miyazawa family, having lost their loved ones, were left without answers, a fact that still haunts their relatives like a ghost from the past. They endured unspeakable pain and suffering, losing what was most precious. With the passage of time, this pain does not subside, but rather intensifies from the realization that the killer is still free, somewhere nearby, continuing to live his life. The story of the Miyazawa family's murder became a bitter reminder that evil can penetrate any home, any community, regardless of the level of security and well-being, reminding everyone that even behind high fences and reliable locks, there is always room for fear. It is also a reminder of the importance of justice, that even the most meticulous investigations sometimes fail to yield the desired results. Unresolved cases like this one leave a deep mark on the public consciousness. They breed distrust in the system, instilling fear and a sense of vulnerability. What remains after such a tragedy? The memory of innocent victims, a never-healing wound in the hearts of loved ones, and questions to which answers may never be found. There remains a ghost in the Miyazawa house, a reminder that justice can be postponed, but not forgotten. Sometimes justice does not prevail here and now. Sometimes to obtain it, one must wait for years, decades, or perhaps an entire lifetime. But even if the killer is never caught, the memory of the Miyazawa family will remain in people's hearts, and their tragic story will serve as a reminder of the importance of safety, the value of human life, and that even in the quietest and safest corners of the world, darkness can lurk. And what can we, the simple listeners, take away from this tragic story? We can draw a lesson from it. A lesson learned is that even in the most difficult moments of life, it's crucial to remember humanity, compassion, and hope. The lesson that justice, though delayed, still exists, and its pursuit must continue. Perhaps the realization that evil exists and can take on the most bizarre forms, was a revelation for us. Maybe the understanding of how important it is to cherish every moment of life, love your family and friends, and always be vigilant became our main lesson. And probably it's the hope that someday justice will prevail and the truth will be revealed, even if it happens in many years, that keeps us going. Remembering this tragedy, we involuntarily wonder what was happening in the killer's soul when he was in the Miyazawa family's house. Did he feel even a drop of regret for what he had done? Did fear creep into his heart? Or was he so cold and ruthless that nothing human was familiar to him? The answers to these questions will most likely remain a mystery forever. In the end, the Miyazawa family murder case is more than just a story of a brutal crime. It's a tale of irreplaceable loss, unbearable pain, and shattered lives, and how evil can penetrate even the most peaceful and sheltered corners of the world. It's a story of how important it is to remember the victims, to relentlessly fight for justice, and to never lose hope. As for the fateful house in Setagaya, it still stands, shrouded in a thick veil of mystery and darkness. It has become a sinister symbol of an unsolved crime, a silent reminder of cruelty, of how even in the safest country, a tragedy can occur, capable of leaving an indelible mark on history. The house is empty, but it seems the spirit of the Miyazawa family still lingers within its walls, as if awaiting justice, which may never come. And so, the ghost remains in the Miyazawa house, constantly reminding us of the fragility of human life, the incredible importance of justice, and that some secrets, alas, remain unsolved forever. This case, like an eternal reproach, will remind us that a monstrous reality can lurk behind a flawless facade of well-being, and that even in the land of the rising sun, with its ancient traditions and multifaceted culture, a tragedy can happen, capable of shaking the whole world. And the sinister question, who will haunt us forever?